We're bringing Val on. This is nonstop. And this is when we're looked at that marketing stack, that life cycle stage. Was that 2 or 3 or something like that? That's where I think we're going to get into it right now with Val. Val, are you ready?
If I can unmute myself, I am ready.
Perfect. Awesome. Val Geisler, everyone, now in-house at Klaviyo, but has been an email marketing expert for how many years?
A decade more? I don't
know. So yeah, always looking at that full cycle approach. Tell me just really quick, when did SMS start entering into perhaps, as an email marketer, you're like, well, now we've got to do SMS too. When did you start doing this for brands?
Last year. SMS
okay, wow.
really, yeah, I mean, it's really new. There were brands doing it before that, but the platforms weren't as plentiful. There weren't as many options, and not as many people were doing it. So it was still very much a private channel that people kept with just their friends, text messages. So now it's a whole new world.
Yeah, and I see your shirt there. There seems to be a Y in the wrong place, I think.
Klaviyo.
Okay, fine. If you say so. That one I'll leave to the viewers to decide on. We'll start a poll later.
Yeah, well, so when we launched SMS, our revamped SMS as a product, the way we did that was with a text to choose from 3 vintage Klaviyo t-shirts, shirts that aren't produced anymore. Which one would you want to bring back? And of the 3 options, this was the most popular one. So this is what everyone got.
Okay. All right. So people have decided for us already.
People have chosen. Yes.
I love it. And yeah, the launch of SMS in the Klaviyo platform has been huge. And congrats on $320 million raised. Is that what it is?
Yeah. I mean, not me personally, but
yeah.
that would be great.
It puts a lot of pressure on you to perform. I'm sure the boss is like, well, we raised the money. Now you better hit the results.
Now, what do we do with it? Yeah. I mean, the great part is my job is to show off the customers, and that's really easy to do because we have amazing customers doing really fun and innovative things. So I think my job's pretty easy and fun. I think maybe some other people have more challenges in their roles, but I get to talk to customers all day and then share those stories. So it's pretty great.
Yeah, I'm interviewing Caddy in a few weeks, and she is busy.
Yes.
She is very busy.
I'm surprised you got a few weeks out and not a few months. That's great. Yeah. Caddy is our VP of marketing, and she's just incredible. She has a history at Dropbox and some other companies where she's made some big strides, and she's come in and really changed the way that we approach marketing at Klaviyo too.
I love it. Awesome. Yeah. All right. With all that, I will get out of the way. Let's put your slides up on the screen.
All right.
I'll take it away from here.
Okay. So I click through, do my thing. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So we're going to talk about how to keep the customers you've already attracted through better email marketing. And I am probably going to skip some slides, move things around. And the thing that I always say when I bring up this topic is that these are all things that you can do, but you probably won't do. And I don't say that to be negative, but almost to challenge you, because most people don't do these things. And honestly, if you did, you would be standing out from 99% of businesses out there, because very few brands are doing this. And that's why I keep talking about it, because more people should. So we're going to look at that. I'm going to skip right over. So Derek told you who I am. So here's one thing I know for sure. When it comes to email marketing, what works for one business might not work for yours. So you have to test it. Like I said, most people aren't going to do everything that I'm going to talk about today anyways, or even one of these things. So it's not a big deal. But if you do decide to do some of these things, then I would highly recommend testing. Not just testing what you're doing, but approaching what I'm going to share with you today as this is a test. I want to test this for a little while, see how it performs for our business. And if it doesn't work, great. I know it doesn't work. That's data that I can use and move forward with. If it does work, great. I'll do more of that. So the thing about customer acquisition is that it's really hard. And you can retain customers a lot easier and a lot more cheaply than you can acquire new customers. And that has become, I made this slide last year, and it has changed a lot in the last several months, even in the last month. Data and privacy laws changing, and the cost of acquiring customers is going up and up and up. And you have an opportunity right now to get new customers through your existing customers by keeping your existing customers longer, even if you're not on a subscription model. I think that's what a lot of people believe, is that you have to be part of a subscription in order to retain customers. You can't focus on customer retention unless you have some kind of subscription model set up. And that's just not necessarily true. You really do have an opportunity to take care of your customers. So one thing I want to say before we talk about this, though, is that not all of your real customers are ideal customers. So Jason's he runs Teachery. It's an education platform. But there is a lot to running a company, any kind of company, doing customer support and keeping your business sustainable. So if there is a customer, a vampire customer, I call them, they're the ones who send in, are in your chat every single day, are sending emails, are making demands of your customer support people, are constantly making returns and never actually keeping any product, are a drain in the system. Those aren't customers that you want to focus on keeping around. You can let them disappear, just like vampires do during the day. There are also ghost customers. So ghost customers are interesting because they are customers who are just got busy and distracted. These customers are in your abandoned carts. They are in your browse abandoned. The internet is super busy and crowded. I don't know about you, but behind this presentation, I have about 40 tabs open, and that's just in one window. So the chances of your customers getting lost in the process is more likely than them disappearing entirely. Those are your ghost customers, and they're really interesting to go after. Your ghost customers are people who have interacted with your brand and stopped somewhere in the process. Just because they stop doesn't mean that they're done entirely. And that's where flows like a browse abandon, like a cart abandon, are so important, because they help bring people back. It's not that I hate the subject line, did you forget something? Because it's not that they forgot something. They just got busy. They got distracted. They didn't forget what that pair of shoes looks like. They know what it looks like, but they do need a reminder to come back and finish what they started. So ghost customers are really interesting to go after. But and so I'll give you an example. Rover is actually a dog sitting service, pet sitting service, and they go after their ghost customers with an email. So the way they do this is I signed up for Rover. I never booked a service. And then it was getting close to Labor Day. It was actually about a month before Labor Day. And they sent an email saying, like, hey, if you're heading out somewhere, then you want to make sure that you get someone to take care of your pet. And that's an example of a way that you might reach out to your ghost customer. It doesn't have to be a hard sell. It doesn't have to be like, hey, we saw you looking. And that's the kind of creepy browse abandon. But this is actually a browse abandon email. It's just saying, here's an invitation and a reason to do something. It's not just sending an email for no reason or saying something like, we noticed you looking, which is actually very creepy. I want to give you the caveat now that this is a mix of e-commerce and software emails, but the principles apply across the board. I think a lot of people get tripped up when it's an email that's not an e-commerce email because they don't know how to apply it. I'll teach you how. So if you see an email that's not e-commerce, don't worry. I will teach you how to apply it to your brand. So another example of being a ghost, Earth Hero. I signed up for their email list, and you can see that over the course of, I didn't actually realize this, but this is in less than a month, I got this many emails from Earth Hero. Now, I didn't realize it until I went to grab this screenshot. And that's when I realized, oh, I'm getting emails every other day, in some cases, one day apart from each other. So I know with the frequency of my own inbox, I get so many emails. Unless I'm getting 2 or 3 emails from the same brand in one day, I don't really notice that I'm getting more than 1 email a week from a brand. I'm a ghost customer for Earth Hero. I signed up for their email list and I've never interacted with them. It is their job to keep talking to me until I tell them, I don't want you to talk to me anymore. Now, that could be through an actual unsubscribe, but better option would be to send an email that is encouraging them to sign up for a preference center, to choose the amount of emails I want to get, to choose my journey with them. Preference centers are a great place to do that. You can set one up in Klaviyo or whatever you're using to send emails. But Earth Hero here, they are taking their job seriously. They're saying, we're going to keep talking to you until you tell us to stop talking to you. That's how you approach a ghost customer. Now, of course, we've talked about vampires, ghosts, and so we have to talk about zombies. So zombies are they're the undead. They're the customers who bought from you once and have not come back. They are people who experienced your brand, and maybe, I think a lot of times we write people off as like, oh, they didn't like the product or they didn't like their experience. That's probably not the case unless they've explicitly told you that. So they're a prime piece of customer real estate to go after and say, hey, we know you interacted with us before. We'd like for you to come back. And so this is your call to action to raise the dead in your email list, in your customer base. So the first thing you have to understand, though, is your churn, which is the number of customers who have left divided by the total number of customers that you have. A lot of brands look at churn on a monthly basis. Some look at an annual basis, but you do need to know your churn number. And I'm going to give you a couple of strategies that you can use to win back these zombie customers. So the first is in your support. So your customer support, if you have a customer support team, they should not be the only people who are understanding the problems of your customers. There is something that you can do that really humanizes the support experience, and that is following up. So imagine if you had a interaction with a customer support, if you're on that customer side and you send in a note and you say like, hey, I see the shirts are in, blue and gray and green, but it looks like red is sold out. Are you going to have red again? Or maybe they're saying, do you have this in long sleeve? I have enough of the short sleeve. I don't see a long sleeve. Do you have that? They're sending that in through chat or through some kind of support system. Your support system might just say, your support team might just say like, oh no, we don't have long sleeve, or we don't know when red will be back in stock again, and have that be it. But if you can tag that conversation as a product request or something like along those lines, then you have the ability to go back. And when you do develop the shirt in long sleeve, or when you do bring red back, you get to go back and to those particular requests and say, hey, we noticed that you asked for this shirt in long sleeves. You specifically asked for this shirt in long sleeve. Well, guess what? We listened to your feedback and we made it just for you. And how special does that feel as someone who has purchased from the brand, has made a very specific request, and then that request is honored and you circle back to me? You can certainly launch your long sleeve shirts to everyone on your email list, and I encourage you to do so. And that's what most brands do. Hello, we have long sleeve shirts. Great. But what is the impact on that customer who made this specific request when you go to them with a separate message, exclude them from that big kind of blast and say, hey, you specifically said that you wanted this long sleeve and we made it for you. That kind of individual attention and that segmentation is so key to creating relationships with your customers, so they feel like they are human, that they have been seen and heard, and that they are understood by you as a brand. They can go buy a long sleeve shirt somewhere else if they want to, But when they feel like you have seen and heard and understand them, they're more likely to stick around with you. I'm going to share an example. I was working with a customer or a client last year. Like Derek mentioned, I used to do some email consulting. And we were evaluating different email marketing systems and email service providers. And at the time, Customer IO was out of the mix because they were missing a feature that my client wanted. And they actually reached out in this process. It was great timing. And they said, hey, when we previously spoke, you were interested, but we didn't have this thing. Well, feedback heard. We have created that for you. And then this image, it's an image right here, but it's actually a GIF inside the email. Here is this feature in action, and would love to hear from you. And that's it. It's a very custom email. Of course, this is sent from an account executive, so it's probably one-to-one, but you can definitely make it one-to-many using segments inside of Klaviyo and build out those segments of people who are making specific asks and create custom messaging for them. Let me jump ahead here to the next strategy, which is being human. So understanding who your customers are is one of the most important things you can do. And a lot of people say, go talk to your customers. And I'm going to give you a different call to action, which is to go listen to your customers. Of course, you have to have conversations, so that requires talking. But I think what's missing when people say go talk to your customers is actually listening to your customers, understanding what they're going through, knowing what their pains are, what they're excited about, knowing who they are, and not just talking about your products and how they're using your products, but talking about them as a human. So some questions that you might ask. To get the conversation started, you can talk to them about them. So maybe the product you have is a work-related product. So you would say then, how would you describe your job title and your role at work? What are you working on right now? What is the biggest problem that you're facing that keeps you awake at night? Maybe your product is for a young family. So then you could say like, hey, tell me about your day-to-day. Like, what does an average day look like for you? Or if you don't have an average day, tell me about that. So something that is a question that they know the answer to, they can feel really confident, helps get people comfortable talking to you, and it helps you better understand them. A trick with talking to customers and listening to them that I learned from a journalist who by trade does a lot of asking people questions is to understand that for every question you ask, there's 3 to 5 more questions that you're going to ask that you don't yet know what they are. So when somebody starts talking, don't just go through your list of questions and ask, okay, question, they give their answer, I move to the next question. But really listen to their answer and maybe ask some more clarifying questions based on their answer. This takes practice, so you'll want to do this often, and you might practice internally with your team, you might practice with a friend. You can go straight to customers and practice with them, but know that the first couple times are uncomfortable when you've never done this before, and then it gets easier. So after you talk to them about them, then you can finally talk about your product. So questions that you might ask, so these are worded from like a software perspective, but you could say, hey, what was happening in your world when you purchased this product, when you purchased our weed whacker? What was going on for you? And then listen to their answer. Ask some clarifying questions. What happened when you first used the weed whacker that convinced you that this was the right solution for you? And then listen and ask clarifying questions. And then definitely make sure to ask them if they were anxious or skeptical about anything when they made their purchase. And if they are someone who made a return or had canceled their purchase, then if that's a segment you're talking to, then you can ask, is that thing that you were anxious about, is that what ultimately prevented you from keeping the product, from moving forward with your purchase? The last strategy that I want to share today is building a habit loop. So this is key, especially if you have a subscription-based product. So habits, I think one of the best books that you can read if you are subscription-based brand is Atomic Habits by James Clear. So a lot of what I'm sharing here comes from James, but the habit loop is saying, there is a trigger. There's a thing that happens that says, I need a solution here. I don't know what it is. And that goes into the craving. The response is to go searching for this solution, and then the reward is that solution in action, which then, if you have a consumable or some other kind of subscription, that reward then leads right back to the queue, because eventually they run out of product. They are now using it on a daily or weekly basis, and the queue is to purchase again. They will either go searching for a new product if you haven't built that loop in yourself, or they will come back to you. So this kind of flow exists in lots of different places. This is an image from LeanStack, which is Ash Mayura's website. He is a software product guy, and I think there's so much to be learned from product managers in the software world in any industry, because what they care about is the customers, and they want to understand this exact path. What is the status quo that they're living with, that regular everyday life that they're living before they have your product? What is that consideration phase? How are they going through deciding if they want to purchase your product or not? What is the selection process for them? What is it? How are they choosing between other products and yours? What is it like when they first start using it? What about repeated use and over time? What is the job that they are hoping to do? Because it is not to cut my grass. A weed whacker's job is not to cut my grass, but a weed whacker's job is to make sure that it is meticulous, right? So my lawn looks well cared and well kept and cared for, and it's not just a haphazard mowing, but I'm going through and touching up the edges and the corners and making sure that on the flower beds things are cleaned up, and I have a meticulous lawn, right? So that is the job of a weed whacker. It's not all the features that the tool has, but the job that it needs to do for your customers. And then there's that new status quo. The habit exists. They're using your weed whacker all the time. When their neighbor stops by, they're talking about their weed whacker that they bought from you. They're sharing the brand. That's that ultimate goal of jobs to be done. The dinner party strategy, I think I have a couple minutes, so I'm going to run through this quickly, and then I'll give you a link. You can go and grab your own dinner party strategy. But this is a great way to onboard your new subscribers. When somebody joins your email list, you want to give them a warm welcome. So the dinner party strategy is planning a dinner party. We've all either been to one or hosted one, not in the recent past, but at some point in memory. You welcome people, you serve appetizers, you have a main course, there's side dishes, there's dessert, and there's always an invite back, hopefully, if everyone enjoyed themselves and had a good time. So you can do this through email too. So warm welcome. You can welcome them, give them the offer that you extended in the first place. Tell them, here's that coupon code, here's the ebook, whatever they're signing up to get, give that to them. And then just a warm welcome hello. You can put a video of yourself in it. It's typically best sent from the founder of the company to say, hi, I'm a human being, and this is my brand, and you are welcome here. It creates a nice connection. Appetizers, they add value. So this is a place where you can start to talk about your brand values, your where you get your product from, where you source materials, who you employ. This is not a selling email, but it's encouraging them to step into the brand of it. The main course, this is where you get to sell. This is where you get to talk about your product. This is where you get to show off your hero product, talk about the benefits that your product provides your customers, and you know that from that jobs to be done research. Side dishes. So side dishes are, let's say your product is a food product and you happen to have an ebook of recipes. You can share that in the side dishes. Maybe you are offering some kind of bundle deal. Maybe you have co-marketing partners and you want to share that here. That's side dishes, adding value to the main dish. And then dessert. So dessert's something to sweeten it. Sometimes this is like a little extra. Maybe you offered 10% off in the initial phase. If they still haven't made a purchase at this point, maybe you offer 15% off. Maybe your dessert is a gift with purchase. Maybe it is something like a Facebook group or a weekly office hours with the founder, or something that's important to your community. It doesn't have to cost money or be product related or a discount. It can be a value add. And then a return invite. You want people to come back. You want them to buy from you again. You want them to keep coming to you. You want them to tell other people about you. So that is the time where you talk about that. So I want to make sure that if you walk away with nothing else, you walk away with this. Einstein said that everything in life should be as simple as possible, but not simpler. And I think that Einstein was talking about email, but I'll leave that up to you. If you want to go deeper on that dinner party strategy, if that really resonated with you, there is a copy of it at fixmychurn.com/TDPS. Fix My Churn is the consulting company I owned and operated prior to coming to Klaviyo. And you can grab the dinner party strategy there. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at LoveValGeisler on Twitter. I think Derek will put that on the screen. And then I also can be found at Klaviyo too. So if you are interested in learning more about segmentation and how you can really create relationships with your customers, Klaviyo is the way to do it. And I don't say that just because I work here, but because I would have told you that 4 months ago before I started working here when I was a consultant. And Derek knows that I have said that for a long time. So
yeah, you've been an advocate for a long time, and they're like, why don't you do this in-house instead of
job
on your own?
Oh, get paid to do it? Sure, sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds sweet. And yeah, the dinner party strategy, definitely recommend downloading that, taking a look. I love how you described the side dishes and the appetizers. I think I'm going to pass that to my team, actually. I think we can do that a little bit better ourselves.
I love an analogy. So any metaphor that helps get things across and make it stick works for me.
I love your, I shared on Twitter your churn calculator, which was, I think it was zombies over like happy people or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. You know what, again, I love a theme, and this idea of like vampires and ghosts and zombies, I just had to stick with it.
I'm glad you addressed it too, because I think that we talked a little bit about yesterday the four kind of quadrants of loyal customers, and in the LoyaltyLion talk, they had talked about how only about 18% of your customer base become these loyal brand advocates that you keep being able to keep in touch with. They always tell people about you. They yell your name from the rooftops, and there are other segments of the list that you have to kind of engage in different ways and try and push them towards that 18% that you want to grow, essentially. So
right, they're called the noisy few for a reason, because there are a few of them, but that doesn't mean that people aren't. I mean, I talk to our customers every day who say, man, I'm Klaviyo's biggest fan, and I just love like everything, all the money I've made through email and everything you guys have done to help me. And I'm like, have you written a review on the Shopify App Store? No. Okay, cool. Can you go do that? You know, it's like those kinds of things. You just have to like ask people. And not everyone who loves your brand, and they're maybe even telling friends and family about it. They're not like shouting it from the rooftops and posting on social and writing your reviews and things like that. So you do have to ask.
Yeah, there is always an opportunity to take somebody out of one of those buckets and move them to the other. Maybe not every single person, but at least some of them are interested in becoming closer to the community. That Tom's talk about a few sessions ago about how he built a community for his company Lunchbox was really like inspiring in that sense, moving more people into the 18% or just the noisy few, as you said.
Yeah,
I love
and
it.
then rallying them together, I think, is great.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Val. We're moving right into the next session.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.